UFC's the battleground where warriors collide. Die Hard MMA podcast, we won't hide. Clint's gonna dig deep, analyze each brawl from the underdogs to the champions standing tall. The fury, let your instincts rise. Feel the adrenaline rush, it's time to defy. Die Hard MMA, we're in it for the thrill. Get ready for the madness. Let's make that bankroll spill.
What is going on, degenerates? Welcome back to the Undefeated Post-Ryan Show. That's what's up. Best gambling show of the dang week right here. We're talking about UFC 312 one last time. We'll take everything we learned throughout the week. We will watch these fighters weigh in, face off, and we just use that as the barbecue sauce on the top of our barbecue chicken pizza. And then you pick the giant slice up. And of course, on this show, it's the oversized slices, right? Where you've got to like pinch it and like fold it in half. So it's like eating a pizza burrito and just, they just dig into it. That's what this show is. Giving you every last little tidbit of information you need so you can make a good bet tomorrow and make some cash, baby. Let's get into it. How's everybody doing? We got my guy Dream already hanging out here. George, Ray, Pro, Landon, Young. We got Dad Bot in the house. Dylan, what's going on? Gold Caps, what's everybody doing today? All right. Got to keep it a little high and tight on the episode for you guys here today, but let's get after it, shall we? First fight of the night. We lost a good one, unfortunately. I was very, very close to adding on Newman Timbery. I was almost going to bet him as an underdog. I was this close, and that fight gets pulled. So very, very upset about that. But first fight of the night, moving forward, is going to be Jubli. He's taking on Quillian Salkild. We've got Jubli making 155.5. Salkild came in at 156. And as you can see, my guy Jubli, I don't know about you guys, but it looks to me like he packed on a little bit of muscle to that frame. He's looking pretty dang good. His opponent here, Salkild, new to the UFC, making his debut. He's another guy who's tall and lanky, long, got the same kind of frame, decently well muscled for a guy as tall and long as he is. And they size up very, very, very well. Now, I will say that Jubli here looks like he's got a little bit of a height advantage, right? But when you zoom out, when you watch the video of these guys facing off, Jubli does actually still have his flip-flops on, where it looks like Salkild is flat-footed. He doesn't have any shoes or anything like that going on. So just that little extra bit of height. Yeah, these two are going to size up extremely well. They're very, very similar in size, very similar in height. It does look like Salkild has a reach advantage just purely based off of the stats. However, I mentioned this on my Monday show, he doesn't always use it the best. This guy is extremely hittable, and he does have a solid chin, like from what we've seen on the regional scene. But guys, I'm always suspect about these types of guys, because if you can take just nasty, filthy shots and walk through people's offense on the regional scene, that's great. That's fine. You're a fun fighter. We'll look forward to having you in the UFC. But that shit doesn't work at the UFC level. Somebody who can actually crack is going to use that against you. And if you don't patch up that defensive flaw, you're going to face plant. Like, unless your name is Trevor Peak and you just have the steel chin granted to you by the gods, and not many people are built that durable, eventually it's going to catch up with you. Now, is Anshul Jubli the guy to throw the kind of heat that's going to knock out Quillid? No, I don't believe Salkild is going to be put down like that by Anshul Jubli. But both these guys are grapplers. And what we have seen is that Anshul Jubli has decent grappling and he's got a really good top game. We worry a little bit about the cardio. We worry about his overall level. So this is a spot where I've been saying it all freaking week, you guys. Salkild is a guy that I do not trust at minus 600, minus 700. It's an insane price tag for a UFC debutant, especially when you're coming in against a guy who's already got a UFC fight under his belt. We know the UFC is trying to break out into this area of the world. We know that Jubli is a guy the UFC technically wants to promote and use. We know the road to UFC fighters are guys that they're not just throwing straight to the wolves. They're trying to make something of these guys. So the fact that they are giving him the lowest bar possible, a debutant off of Dana White's Contender Series who nobody's still completely certain of, I just feel like Anshul Jubli is in the buy lowest of all buy low spots. I have not pulled the trigger yet, but it looks like a little bit of buyback finally happened here. Jubli is a plus 455 underdog right now from what I am seeing. And that's down from, I think, 470 he was a little earlier this morning. So nothing but parlays on Salkild. Finally, somebody has come in and just touched the button on Anshul Jubli. And frankly, guys, that still might be me. I might throw a 1-unit dart on Anshul Jubli simply because this number is ridiculous and fading UFC debutantes off Dana White's Contender Series overall has been relatively profitable. Not nearly as profitable as when the show first started, but I kind of think Jubli is in this fight to some extent. If he finds his way in these grappling transitions to top position, if Quillid goes to his back, I think Jubli's going to pound his head through the canvas. Now, if Jubli is not able to control the grappling exchanges, then we probably do get a banger type of fight. And if Quillid starts barking at him, he's probably going to go ahead and melt him. You know, that's definitely something that could happen here. And I think round 2, round 3 sub for Quillid makes a ton of sense. I believe he's a BJJ black belt, and we've seen Anshul Jubli wilt under the pressure before. And again, I think he's going to do everything within his power to not do that again in this fight, considering how embarrassing it was to have him happen the last time with Mike Breedeen. But just because you don't want it to happen doesn't mean you're not going to break again. You know what I mean? So there's definitely a chance that Quillid melts this guy and gets a sub in round 2 or round 3. Gold Cap's kind of thinking the same way for me here. Round 1 KO at 25-1. Yeah, that I don't mind one bit. Like, I'm not sure if he's going to get it done in the first, but frankly, he is a guy that probably needs to be fresh. So that's very, very true that he probably needs to get it done early if he's going to do it. Salkild looks like Napoleon Dynamite. Good question from Chinchek here. Why not half a unit, LOL? Frankly, you're probably right that it's probably worth a half a unit shot rather than a full unit shot, but that's just kind of how I've always done things. If I'm doing a half unit, it's usually because it's a prop bet of some kind. It's usually like a KO or a sub or an inside the distance, you know, something along those lines. If I'm betting a money line or a total just for an outright victory, I go a full unit. I've always done it that way. And, you know, if you hit these long shots that are like this guy, plus 455 in this kind of a spot, that'll make your day. You know, that could be the difference between victory and defeat in a big way there. If you get plus 4 units on a single bet, you know, the half unit, it just kind of sucks when you do actually end up having it come through. There's that buyer's remorse of, man, I could have made 4 units. I only made 2. Now, I know that's degenerate type shit, right? Like, I know that's gambler's mentality missing out, but the FOMO is real. Like, I don't want to miss out on the score of being the only guy cashing the plus 455 tickets. So I'll probably go full unit if I end up deciding to do that. You're probably right, though. Half unit is probably more appropriate. All right, guys, moving right along. The next fight, we've got Kevin Jusset, and he's taking on Jonathan Mikhalif. We've got 171 for Jusset. We've got 170 on the dot for UFC debutant Jonathan here. This was a very good face-off. These guys size up really well. I like this fight. I don't think Jonathan is UFC caliber, you guys. I'm just going to outright say it. I really don't. Now, that being said, I don't really think that Kevin Jusay is anything to write home about. Jonathan is a guy who really relies on his grappling and just kind of walks forward and has to get his hands on you and does everything he can to get the fight to the ground. It's very obvious what he wants to do. He doesn't disguise it well. He doesn't set it up well. And because of that, I think a guy like Kevin Jusay is going to just be able to kick him in the face. Like, Jusay is a guy that if you let him keep the range, if you let him dictate the pace, he's going to box you up. He's a little bit on the slow side. He will wilt under pressure. He will wilt under speed. But in those situations, I don't think that's the situation we're dealing with here, right? This is not a guy who's going to outspeed Kevin. This is not a guy that's going to stay in his face and mix the arts. This is a guy who's going to dive on legs, try to force the takedowns, and then when he does strike, he's big and he's slow. He's not nearly finessed enough to be better than a guy like Kevin Jusay striking. So while he might try to mix those arts, I just don't think he's good enough to mix those arts. I think that Jusay is the bottom of the barrel for the city kickboxing guys, but he's better than a debutant off Dana White's Contender Series who really can't strike. That's all this comes down to for me. I'm not laying minus 250 on Kevin Jusay, but I do think he is the right side. Maybe he's able to KO Jonathan. We've seen Jonathan hurt and folded over by guys like this a lot in the past, but Kevin also is a guy who has no problem just doing what he needs to do to go ahead and get the win. I kind of think the decision is the most likely outcome. The bookies agree with me. That's plus 140 for Kevin Jusay by decision. Earlier in the week, I kind of thought it was a KO spot, but the more I'm kind of letting it marinate and sit on it, I think Jonathan will keep on coming, and Jusay is going to have to defend those takedowns and keep the fight standing, and he won't be able to really let it loose. If he won't be able to unleash the way he needs to, then he probably doesn't find a finish. So I'm thinking it's Jusay. I'm still on the Jusay train here. I haven't bet him or anything like that, but I think it's probably Jusay by decision. All right. Muhammad in the chat saying, what's up, Clint? Please don't stop doing the sharp action report. I value hearing from Andrew. Cheers. Cheers to you, Muhammad. We won't. Don't you worry. Don't you worry. We will not stop doing the sharp action report, especially for these pay-per-view cards. Andrew, what is going on? Appreciate the kind comments from you there, my friend. Marab's disciple saying the Aussie gonna smoke him, going back to the Jubli fight. And yeah, maybe he will. We'll see though. I kind of like violence on that one, and plus 455. It's not often in the UFC you get those kind of numbers, and especially at that low level, you usually don't get those kind of numbers. So I don't think the plus 450 underdogs at title fights, not counting guys like Sean Strickland who upset Israel Adesanya, that's extremely rare, right? It's usually these lower level ones where you're like, oh, that guy's not quite what we thought he was, and that's when you get those big upsets. So I'm more inclined to take the big upsets on the lower level fights than I am on the higher level fights. But I'm trying to tighten my game up overall, you guys. I'm trying to tighten my game up overall. So do I need to make that bet? Probably not. I want to. The degenerate in me is clamoring for it, but we'll see if I actually pull the trigger on it, because I really need to kind of step away from those kinds of bets, at least for a little bit. But hey, the dogs have been barking, and this feels like a doggy type of card here to me. Next up, you've got Cody Steele, 156, and he's taking on Rongo, who also came in at 156 pounds. These guys size up really, really, really well. You've got a slight height advantage here for Rongo. Cody Steele is a decent bit thicker. He's also got a much larger head. You guys know we like to comment on that, right? You got that big old dome on you, and usually you're a bit more durable when you've got that giant head. You can see the difference here in size. Rongo's got that skinny little head. I kind of think Rongo is being overlooked in this spot. However, again, it's another situation where Rongo has burned me time and time again. If it walks like a duck, if it talks like a duck, it's probably a duck. And I keep on betting on Rongo, thinking he's better than he actually is. Now, the last fight, I have heard some people, when talking about this fight, some of the comments that come through on my show, they're talking about how Rongo got TKO'd in his last fight, and that's a really bad look. Tell me you didn't watch the tape. Just tell me you didn't actually run back and watch that fight, because he didn't get TKO'd, you guys. He got elbowed. He got caught on an entry, and his eye swole shut immediately. It was like somebody stuck one of those basketball pumps straight into his eyeball, and just, they immediately swole that thing up, and they had to stop the fight. So it was a swelling stoppage. It was not a TKO. Rongo is pretty dang durable. I know a lot of people are super high on Cody Steele. Frankly, you guys, I'm just not seeing it. I don't get what the hype on Cody Steele is. I know he's a good grappler. Don't get me wrong. I know he's a good grappler, but he doesn't blow my hair back. He's not that good. And then on the feet, he's kind of slow and he's kind of clubbing. And that's not super exciting either. I think Rongzhu has a significant striking advantage here on the feet. I think both guys are tough. I think both guys are durable. Rongzhu is at a definitive grappling disadvantage here, but he's got really, really great takedown defense. And frankly, Rongzhu got out there early and he's been training with City Kickboxing leading up to this fight. If there's anybody who knows how to defend takedowns and keep striking the way you need to win a fight, it's CKB. Those guys have been doing that. That's the game plan. That's Kevin Jusay this weekend. Like, they all know how to sprawl and brawl and then stay long in their fights to win. I think I'm going to buck the trend on this one, you guys. I like Rongzhu. Again, I haven't bet it yet because I've lost way too much money on Rongzhu, but I might actually get to pulling the trigger. What I really like, Rongzhu by decision. It's plus 650. Rongzhu's in desperation mode. He's not going out there trying to, light the world on fire. This thing looks like a freaking yarmulke. Gosh, I gotta get a new tinfoil hat. It's too small for my head. What am I doing? I think Rongzhu is going to go out there and try and stay long. He's going to use his hips. He's going to use his sprawl. He's going to use his takedown defense. And then he's going to try to get to work with his hands. Now, from everything we've seen from Rongzhu, he's got good, decent striking. Again, decent, not spectacular, not great. But he's going to be faster than a guy like Cody Steele as long as he doesn't get nuked by Cody Steele on the feet. As long as he doesn't get clubbed and subbed. As long as he doesn't get his back taken. I think there's a very good chance that we just get Rongzhu doing what he needs to do to stay 1 inch ahead of Cody Steele here. And at plus 650, if this thing goes the full 15 minutes, I don't understand how it's plus 650. I think that number is just straight up wrong because Cody Steele is more of a finisher. He's got 4 wins by KO, 1 by sub, and then only 2 decisions. And it's against a relatively low level of competition over the course of his career. So he's a knockout guy to this point, more so than a submission guy. And I don't think he's got what it takes to knock out somebody like Rongzhu. Again, maybe ground and pound. Maybe you get on his back, flatten him out, pound him through the canvas, something along those lines. Okay, sure, it could happen. But I think Rongzhu's takedown defense is really going to be what comes into play here. I think he's going to be able to sprawl, get his hips back, stay on the feet. And as long as he's able to do that, he'll just work his way to a decision. Now, if it gets to the ground, he's going to get subbed. That just is what it is. He's already got several losses by submission. He's a step behind in the submission defense. So I understand everybody taking the sub prop here for Cody Steele, but I kind of like the plus 650 decision on the dog here. I think he's very live. I think this is going to be a very close fight. And I think there's a very real opportunity here for them to rob somebody blind in this spot. Cody Steele's an American. He's not an Aussie fighter, right? They're trying to make Rongzhu a thing. So if they get the chance, if it's a close fight, if he's the one dealing damage on the feet, they'll probably give the decision to him if it's close, So we'll see. Again, I have not pulled the trigger on that one, but that's my tinfoil cap fight for the week here. That's the one where I might do, usually standard, I play 2 units on most everything. I might go 1 unit on Rongzhu and then a half unit on the decision prop. That's how I like kind of double dipping on those spots. So if he does win via finish, I get that plus 245 on the money line. And then it's plus 3 units additional if he makes it to the decision and I hit my prop, that kind of thing. There's a lot of opportunities on this card to do that kind of a split. So the Anshul Jubli one, if we want to go back to talking about that one, the 1 unit on the money line and then a half unit on his freaking TKO prop at 14-1, something crazy like that. That's how you score. You know what I mean? So we'll see. Again, haven't pulled the trigger on it. But we'll see. I might actually pull the trigger on the Rongzhu one. The Czar in the chat saying fading both of China's fake fighters. Czar, please tell me, who are the fake Chinese fighters on this card? I see that we have 3 fighters from China on the card. Who are the 2 that are fake? Please let me know. Cade with the right idea here. Fading Dana White's Contender Series. Completely agree, man. Completely agree. Justin likes Rongzhu by TKO, says calling it now. Interesting. See, I'm not quite that bold. I'm not sure I'm that far back on Rongzhu, but hey, if I get to that money line, the prediction all week has been that the line has been too wide, and I think Rongzhu is live. So I'm there with you. All right, guys, let's move it along. Colby thickness taken on Alexandre Topuria. Both guys made 135.5 pounds. Both these guys looked ready to go. It is funny. Alexandre Topuria he really looks like Ilya and McGregor had a baby, doesn't he? Like he looks exactly like a combination of Ilya and Conor McGregor. And we all know Ilya Topuria was trying to steal the vibe of Conor McGregor with all his tattoos and shit. It's pretty funny that his brother looks like a better Conor McGregor impersonator than he does. Obviously, a big height and reach advantage here for Colby. Alexandre? I'm not sure how to say that. Topuria, very short, very thick, very much a Topuria brother for sure. Heard some weird rumors on this one. It sounds like Colby may not have even been invited to the UFC by the UFC. Like there's something about like the Topuria training camp being the one who set this fight up and put it together. Weird stuff. Really weird stuff. I still think it's Topuria by KO. I just think eventually he finds that right hand. Guys, neither of these fighters are good. If you've got a brother combo in the UFC, especially when it's the older brother, so like the younger brother is like the sick, talented one with all the experience, and they're like, hey, get my older brother in here, right? Like Sergio is probably better than Anthony Pettis. There's a real chance that that's the case because he grew up with his older brother whooping his ass and got really good, really early, really fast because of that, right? The younger brother usually is the one who's got the standout talent. When it's the younger one calling you up and saying, hey, get my older bro in here for a fight or two, he's not going to be anything in the UFC. But they will give him a softball or two to make the family name look good. So I'm just keeping it simple here. I think Topuria by KO is definitely the way to roll in this one. I think that's the way to go. Dream says put $20 on Colby plus 380 to win 100. I mean, hey, I don't blame you. I think it would be a live bet situation for me though. I don't mind the late round props, that round 3 at 35 to 1. Like Topuria has shown a poor gas tank, so I could definitely see that being a thing. Definitely a chance. But yeah, that even money for the KO. I mean, I don't know. I know it's square, right? That's the obvious one, but I just think it makes sense in this case. That's what he's going to try to do. That's what he's going to look to do. All right, guys. Next up, we've got Kong Wang and we've got Bruno Brazil. Bruno came in rocking the Batman hat with the Fighting Nerds glasses, which is certainly a choice. That's certainly something somebody did. She came in at 125.5 pounds. Her opponent, Kong Wang, thankfully did not give up on the Joker. I love that she is sticking to her thing, and just because she took an L, she's not completely running away from being the Joker. Now, this is a bad picture of them facing off because she's giving her the rose, but Kong Wang is a decent amount larger. We've got a spot where Bruno Brazil is actually going up a weight class. Now, I'm going to repeat something that I said last week, you guys, and I do think it's probably worthy of like a little bit of the tinfoil hat there. It doesn't fit my head anymore. I need a new one of these, damn it. The UFC trying to stack the deck, right? We talked about it last week where MVP went up to fight Tashera. You can guarantee the UFC wanted Tashera Magomedov to win that fight. That's who they wanted to win that fight. Now, it turned out that MVP was still too slick, still too fast. He ended up winning the fight himself anyway. But the plan was to make a much smaller man go up and fight somebody who they have a similar style to give every advantage to the guy the UFC wants to win. Now, plans of mice and men, right? It doesn't always work out. It didn't work out. MVP got the win. He got the upset. A lot of people cashed plus money as an underdog. Good on you guys for getting there with that one. The UFC is trying to run that same exact game plan here. Kong Wang is very, very big. She's a large 125 pounder. She couldn't make 115 pounds if her life depended on it. Bruno Brazil, on the other hand, wasn't the largest 115er we have ever seen, and she wasn't the most shredded 115er we have ever seen. She had cardio issues at 115. Moving up where she is the smaller fighter who's going to have to rely on a grappling heavy game plan, the UFC is stacking the deck here, you guys. They're trying to get Kong Wang back on track. Kong Wang is the far better striker in this spot, and even with the grappling of someone like Bruno Brazil, she can't keep it going for a full 15 minutes, especially against a larger opponent like this. At least I don't expect her to be able to. I think Kong Wang gets back on track here, and I don't even mind the finish props, you guys. I really feel like this is a round 2, round 3 type of situation. I think the KO is what comes. However, you can't count out the subs. Kong Wang is fully capable of submitting her opponents. So the round 2 plus 650, round 3 plus 1,000. I may sprinkle those round 2, round 3 props for Kong Wang because I think she comes out here and she makes, I think she reminds everybody how Bruno Brazil is just not that girl, right? She is not somebody who we're really expecting to be much of anything in the UFC. I don't care that she linked up with the Fighting Nerds. I don't think that's going to save her. Kong Wang inside the distance is plus 165. Pretty gross. Pretty gross. But at the same time, I do think eventually that's what comes through. I always get nervous taking the bad deals on those types of props because it's like Peyton Talbot inside the distance, right? Like that never had a shot. So like they don't always get there. I avoided the chalky, like the -225 Sergey Pavlovich. We talked about that on last week's show. Thank God if you guys listened to me and pulled that out of your parlays. I hope I saved a couple of you some cash in that spot because that was a massive trap. But Kong Wang, getting at least +165 here for an inside the distance prop instead of just taking the +200 KO. I don't mind that one bit. Marab's disciple says Kong Wang got beaten by a tiny opponent last time. Can't trust other fighter. Her opponent was not tiny. Marab, I know what you're saying, but like, let's just not get a little in front of our skis here on this one. Her opponent last time was Gabriela Fernandez, and she's very thick. She's very big. She's well muscled, extremely well muscled, and a high level grappler. So bit of a different situation here. She's getting someone who belongs a weight class down, who is not nearly as physically imposing as Gabriela Fernandez is. Let's see here. So you never bet a fighter off a loss. This is the best time to bet Kong Wang. I'm not sure who you're talking to. I didn't say never bet a fighter off a loss. I agree with you. This is the best time to bet Kong Wang. So I'm with you. I'm not sure if you're talking to somebody in the chat or not. I'm not sure. But yeah, that's yeah. Muhammad saying that wasn't the plan from the UFC. Don't bet on narrative stuff. You can find narrative holes, man. At this stage of the game, the UFC sometimes hands over the script, and you absolutely can find holes and situations where the UFC is trying to set somebody up. Not always. You can't strap the tinfoil cap on for literally every fight, but you can find them. They're there. They're there. All right, guys. Next up, you've got Vyacheslav Borchev, Slava Claus himself, 156 pounds. He's taken on Tom Nolan, who came in also at 156 pounds. And as you can see, Tom Nolan does have a decent little height advantage in this spot, but Slava is very well built, very thickly muscled, and he is short and stockier. It was pretty funny. Slava actually gave him a present at the weigh-ins. You got to love when people steer into their fighting names and their alter egos and stuff like that. It is good stuff. I don't like Tom Nolan, you guys. I know a lot of people are super high on Tom Nolan. They like him as a prospect. I know he's very young. I know he's tall. I know he's long, but he's not durable. He's just not built for this shit. He is not built for war. This is a fight where Slava is absolutely the guy who is built for war. He's battle tested. The problem is he's got 25% takedown defense. So this number's been on the move basically the entire week. Nolan was a much larger underdog earlier. He's now down to even money, plus 100 across most platforms. Slava just barely hanging on to that -120 favorite line here in this spot. Tom Nolan, one thing I missed, apparently he's a BJJ brown belt, so he does have some grappling chops hidden in there. If he does grapple, this Tom Nolan by sub plus 700, that'll be on the table. But from what I've seen, he's just not positionally sound enough. He's not strong enough to like hold people down. He's not a very good wrestler. And we've seen that Slava is very, very, very difficult to hold down. He can be taken down. Holding him down requires a different skill set. I don't know that Tom has the skill set to hold him down. I think this is going to be a car crash. I think this is going to be a very, very violent fight. And I'm very close to betting Slava. I said on Monday that I was greedy and I want Slava as an underdog. I want this line to flip, and then I want plus money on Slava instead of laying any kind of a price tag on him. -120 might get me there. Like, we're close. We are so close. That's dang near even money. Like, I'm about to maybe pull the trigger on Slava in this spot just because I really don't like Tom Nolan as a prospect in general. I don't think he's very good, and I don't expect him to take off the way a lot of people are. Maybe that'll burn me. Maybe he'll be the next Alex Pereira where he just advances fast enough that I'm never able to fade him. But I think the fade is now. I missed out on fading Shara Bullet last week with MVP. I was waiting for the fade for that, man. I lost a lot of money trying to fade him. And then I missed the spot on MVP because, ironically enough, because of Muhammad's comment on the narrative here. I got a little in my own head about that one. I don't want to miss the fade here on Tom Nolan. I think I'm probably going to bet Slava. And I think the under 1.5, even at even money, is probably the way to go. Slava fights with ferocity, and Tom Nolan is a car crash expert. So I kind of think they're going to meet in the center, and they're just going to go to war because I'm not sure there's any other option. Even if Tom does try to grapple, like I mentioned, I don't think he's going to backpack Slava for 15 minutes. I don't think he's going to be able to out wrestle him and hold him down for a 15-minute fight. So eventually Slava's going to get back up and start throwing bungalows. So when he starts doing that, Nolan's going to have to fight. And I think this fight eventually will get violent, and I think it'll happen pretty quickly. Next fight to talk about, you guys, Jack Jenkins takes on Gabriel Santos. And my guy Santos was amped up at the weigh-ins today. Looking good, looking shredded, great shape. His opponent, what the hell happened? This man needs his mullet. I'm sorry. Jack Jenkins lost absolutely all of his aura and all of his power. The mustache is fine, but without the mullet, he is nothing. And Santos is freaking huge. Now, I will tell you guys, again, there's a shoe situation going on here. Jack Jenkins was barefoot, and my guy Santos had his flip-flops on, but flip-flops don't do that. Like, this man was not wearing platforms, right? Like, he is not going out to the disco after the fight here. He's not wearing 6-inch heels. This man is big. There's a size difference between these two. I like Gabriel Santos. I like him a lot. We talked about it on Monday. This number has kind of bounced back and forth a little bit. There's some pullback, some buyback on Jenkins. I like Jenkins. I really do, you guys. I don't want you to think I'm trying to fade Jenkins or anything like that, but he's got a problem with his grappling. There is a significant downside to this man and his ability on the ground. So I think that we're just going to have to pull the trigger on Santos, and I like him by sub. I think he's going to be able to mix in the takedowns and the wrestling. He'll avoid those leg kicks, put the man on his ass, and then we get a submission. That's the way I like it. That's what I see. What's up, Steph? Good to see you. Oi, oi, oi from Dream. Yeah. He says he let's see here. I'm not sure who you're talking to on that one on the agree there, Dream, but I got the oi, oi, oi. Let's go. Marab saying he's passing on Jenkins. And yeah, I think that's the case. All right, guys. The next fight, Jake Matthews taking on my guy, Francisco Prato. Both guys came in at 170 and a half. They have a very bad picture of Prato for some reason. I mean, he looks like he's in tremendous shape, obviously, but I'm not sure why they got 3 pictures of Jake Matthews, but none of Prato. They size up decently, actually. When you see like the over the camera or the over the shoulder view that they do with Dana White at these face-offs, it makes it look like Prato is tiny. It really makes it look like Jake Matthews is freaking huge. When you see this actual side shot of them, the size difference isn't quite as bad, and that makes me feel a little bit better. This is my dog of the week, you guys. I love Francisco Prato. I think Jake Matthews' ceiling is very, very, very capped. I think we've seen a lot of what he's capable of already to this point. He's decent everywhere, but he's not exceptional anywhere. I think Prato is going to pull a Frankie Edgar on us. He put out a quote, something to the effect of, just because you can make a weight class doesn't mean you should. Look at the muscle this kid put on. He's training at ATT, and he's got speed. He's got power. He's got aggression. It's hard to take people down when they're shorter than you, when they've got lower hips to the ground. So if he's been working at all on that takedown defense, I think it's going to be tough for Jake to get those takedowns. And I know a lot of people are talking about it. Dream, even in the chat, is saying Jake is better at the grappling. And I completely agree. I do understand. He is better in the grappling, but Jake doesn't follow game plans, guys. Like, Jake Matthews has had a wrestling path to a lot of his fights and never uses it. He shoots 1 or 2 takedowns per fight, and then he ends up in a scramble, and then he ends up losing position. He'll go on his back, and he'll play jiu-jitsu. He does not stick to that wrestling game plan. And Marabi, he's also saying Jake is better than Malarkey. I mean, yeah, but that's Malarkey went out there, and he put his wrestling shoes on, and he stayed wrestling the entire fight. When have you ever seen Jake Matthews do that? He doesn't do that. This guy likes to get out there and get into a fight. He likes to box. He likes to brawl. And I like that here. I think Prato's going to knock him out. Prato's faster. Prato's more powerful. Even though he's a little bit smaller, I actually think that speed advantage is going to be something that makes a difference in this fight. We've seen Jake Matthews rock. We've seen him hurt. We've seen him knocked out before. So I think when these two really get after it, Prato is going to be the one that ends up breaking him in a striking match. I hope 2 units at plus 185 is the move for me. You can get plus 190s out there, so that's unfortunate. But I'm more than happy to get that kind of a price tag on somebody who I think is a solid prospect, fading somebody who is turned into a gatekeeper as a busted prospect. Next up, you have got Jimmy the Brute Crout, and he is returning against Rodolfo Bato. Bato looking big, looking good, no problems there. Again, another 3-shot for him. And now, see, Jake, sorry. Not Jake. Jimmy at least knows his audience. He commits to the bit. He kept the mullet. That's what's up. That's where your power comes from. Good on you. They size up not as great as I would like to see. So I've been saying this is probably a Jimmy Crout spot all week. I know it's hard to trust somebody off a retirement fight. I know it's very, very difficult to wrap your brain around putting your money on a guy like Crout. And I've lost a lot of money on Crout, especially that 0-3 run he ended the UFC with. I thought he was going to win a lot of those fights, and he lost all of them. So I am very, very suspicious of putting my money on Crout yet again. I think this is a very violent fight. I think we like unders in this fight. Because we've got Bato coming in on short notice, a guy who can be hurt, who can be tagged, who can be dropped. We saw Toria basically put him out clean in the striking. And then you've got Jimmy Crout, who frankly has only ever had about 7 minutes worth of cardio. The more fights get extended with Jimmy Crout, his entire career, that's when he starts losing. He's been submitted before. For a guy who's a primary grappler, he gets submitted, he's been knocked out. You've got the Anthony Smith leg kick TKO. So Jimmy Crout does not do well in extended fights. I don't think he's going to be able to wrestle his way to a win here against Bato. I think Bato probably has a cardio advantage here, and it seems like Bato is capable from that Ihor fight of catching kind of a second wind and getting himself back in the fight and continuously being dangerous. But he's also on short notice, so I think he's going to have to step on the gas pedal early if he wants to win this fight, which means car crash, baby. Under 1.5, fight doesn't go the distance. I might end up doing a circle of violence parlay this week, you guys. I haven't done that in a long, long time, but I think it's time to break out the circle of violence where I find my favorite totals to not go the distance and you just cram a bunch of unders together at plus money. I think that might be the way to go. We're going to see a lot of finishes. I think it's Jimmy Crout by knockout, though. The way this guy swings, his speed after a layoff training at Bangtao Muay Thai, I think his hands are going to be crisp. I like Crout to go ahead and get the win and get back on track here, but that size discrepancy is a bit of a problem. If they start grappling and he gets tired, that could be an issue. Bato, round 2, round 3 sub and stuff like that, those types of things are always things that could be a problem. So not one that I am getting involved in early. And the fact that money has come in on Bato and Jimmy Crout is back out to about plus 135 at this point is interesting to me, because I know a lot of people thinking the same way I do, that Jimmy Crout is probably the side as a live dog here, but now we're getting a better price on Crout. So I don't know. It's going to be a crazy fight. I'm probably going to have Crout inside the distance in one of my parlays. That's probably the way I'll address it. Big boys up next, Justin Tofa, and he is taking on UFC newcomer Tashera. And this is a tall versus short matchup here between these guys. My God. You've got short, squat, wide Tofa and tall, skinny, like way too skinny for heavyweight Tashera. I don't know why, but like this guy, I know he's not as tall, but he gives me like Stefan Struve vibes. There's a certain point that you get negative returns on your height. Like these guys with the height and the reach, it's a huge advantage if you know how to use it, if you know how to work it right. But at heavyweight, I just think being tall isn't necessarily the end all be all, because you don't have the physicality to move these short, stocky bastards around. And that's exactly what Justin Tofa is. I think Taliesin's going to get in there and try to grapple with him. I think he's going to crash the pocket way too much for a tall guy. We've seen him do that on the regionals before, where he gets a little overexcited and he tries to work with knees and elbows. And all of a sudden he's kind of punching from here, even though he's got these long rangy arms. He ends up being right here with his guys. And that's how Tofa cracks people, is when you get into range. Now, the problem for me is Tofa is just not very good. If you stand still and you let Tofa crack you in the face, you will fall over. He's got stupid power, but he's just not very good. So this is a fight I have zero interest in betting, you guys. Absolutely zero interest in betting. Minus 148 for Tashera, plus 125 for Justin Tofa. Another fight that I fully expect not to go the distance one way or the other, just the way their styles match up. This one should be fun. I think I'm going to pick Justin Tofa. I'm going to say he catches him. I'm going to say he hits him with something big and puts him away, but I'm not going there. I am not going there. All right. Robin, that's interesting. Have you looked into YouTube throttling your stream? I'm not sure how or why YouTube would do that in the first place. I've had a couple of people commenting that it like skips every couple seconds. There's a couple of you. No one said anything about it until today. So maybe there's like an internet issue today. Maybe there's an issue with YouTube today. I don't know. But a couple of people have said that. I've gone back and I've like rewatched and re-listened to my stream from earlier, and it didn't do anything for me. So it's concerning that other people are also saying that you're having the same issue. I apologize for the quality. I'm not sure what the issue is or where it's coming from, but it's a mixed bag, because there's a lot of people saying it's fine. And then there's a lot of people saying that they're getting this buffering effect. I can't get that buffering effect. I've gone back and I've re-listened and I'm not getting the buffer. So I'm not sure what's happening as far as the buffering thing. It might be a regional thing. Who knows? There's a lot of crazy stuff going on, unfortunately. I'll try to look into it. I'll see what I can do. Let's move on, though. We got the co-main and main event. Guys, first and foremost, please do me a favor, like the stream if you haven't already. Get subscribed here for my content moving forward as well. The other thing I want to let you guys know, first off, as you know, Bet Openly is my sponsor. We are doing a $100 giveaway for UFC 312, you guys. We're doing a $100 giveaway. So please, if you haven't signed up already, get signed up so you can come compete for this thing. The code is in the link or the description of this video. It's code DIEHARD. It'll get you free entry. Winner of the contest gets $100, no questions asked. So go ahead, get signed up, come play for free. And then if we get to 100 signups, just in general, I'm going to go ahead and wax my chest on camera for you guys. So if you haven't, that's the best way you guys can support me right now, is go ahead and get signed up for Bet Openly. Co-main event, Weili Zhang takes on Tatiana Suarez. 114.5 for Tatiana, 115 on the dot for Zhang Weili. And both these women on point, both these women ready to go. How do you not love them? They size up pretty well. Tatiana is a little bit larger. You know, it's funny because I know a lot of people were saying that Tatiana, they expected her to be much bigger. I kind of expected her to be a little bit bigger too. I will say Zhang wears, she wears shoes that have like thick soles on them. So, you know, before I was making the joke about like not wearing the heels and going clubbing, Zhang actually does wear shoes that have pretty big soles on them. She's pretty short. So I think she does everything she can. You know how like when you were like 6 or 8 years old, and your parents wanted to measure you, if you had like a wall where you could like draw a line and like match your height or something like that, you put your heels against the wall and you stretch, you get your neck as straight as you can. You're trying to get that extra little bit so that you're as tall as you can be. That's how Zhang Weili looks every single time she faces off with anybody. She's stretching herself out as far as she possibly can to be as tall as she possibly can. Tatiana is still just a little bit bigger than Zhang Weili is in this spot. And the other thing is she's wider. When these two step away from the face-off and they turn face camera, don't get me wrong, Zhang Weili is in incredible shape. She's very well-muscled. She's very thick. She looks great. But the shoulders on Suarez, she's very broad. She's very thick. She's very strong. And I'm on Suarez here for this spot, you guys. I know this is like the battleground for this week because it's a pick'em. I'm on Suarez. Everybody who I know and respect, the guys that I respect the most in this gambling game, have been on Suarez forever and have been waiting for this opportunity. Zhang has been relying on her grappling a lot in her own fights, and that's something she won't have access to here. Now, it is concerning if this fight gets extended. Zhang's got all the 5-round experience, obviously. We're kind of wishing on a hope and a prayer that Tatiana Suarez can go a full 25 minutes. I expect that she can, but we haven't seen it yet, so it's a bit of a leap of faith. I think she'll be able to out-grapple Zhang Weili, and I expect her to be able to, you know, handle the champ here in the realm where they both prefer to be, and that's the wrestling. So whether or not she gets a sub or if she wins 3 of the rounds and, you know, survives round 5 where it gets scary because she's starting to slow down, I think Tatiana Suarez is going to go ahead and be the champion. You know, she should have been champ probably a long time ago. The health issues and stuff like that backed her up. I think it's finally her time. You know, I think it's finally her time. And that's the plan for me. That's the plan for me. The main event, you guys, we're going to go ahead and talk about the main event up next. You have got Sean Strickland, and he is taking on Dricus du Plessis for the rematch here. Both guys came in at 185 on the dot. I absolutely hate Sean Strickland's greasy-ass new mustache. I'm sorry, that looks terrible. Dricus, jacked as ever. Absolutely jacked. Love to see it. He's intense as ever. This was a great face-off, you guys. Absolutely stellar face off here. Sean Strickland's not the guy that usually stares people down. This fight, you can tell he means business because he stepped in, he met eyes with Dricus, and they stared into each other's souls for this one. Usually he tries to laugh it off, usually tries to talk about it, you know, being gay or whatever. He doesn't want to look into the eyes of the other man. He's staring into the soul of Dricus for this one. Different change in attitude, something we need to make sure we are aware of. This line opened up at a pick'em, and money came in on Dricus since it opened. Now he's sitting about minus 200. I talked about this earlier in the week. I did parlay up Dricus. He's my guy. I've been printing money with him. It makes me terrified that this is Marab 2.0 where I laid the wrong price, and I knew I was laying the wrong price. I'm doing it again. I parlayed up Santos with Dricus du Plessis for plus money, hoping that the two guys that I fully expect to win their fight do win their fights, and then I go ahead and reap the rewards there on that. So that's the plan for me. I'm on Team Dreykus. But the other thing that I like in this fight is the under. The first fight, the under was chalk. They expected the fight not to go the distance. And everybody was so shocked and surprised. Dreykus by decision, I think, was like 10-1 or something crazy. So nobody thought that fight was going the distance. I tell you guys every time, rematches are not the same as the first fights. They just never are. I think both guys are far more intense. I think that can be seen in the way Sean Strickland is approaching the face-offs in this fight. And Dreykus is the finisher of all finishers in this weight class right now. If they go out there and they bang it out and it's not just, hey, who can pick and poke the most? If they start a little bit faster, I think we get a very, very violent end to this fight. I like Dreykus du Plessis, and I'm calling for the KO. I think it's Dreykus by knockout. That's what I'm seeing here in this fight. And frankly, I like the under 4.5. I like the fight doesn't go the distance because you're going to get Sean Strickland coming out here giving everything he's got, and he doesn't want to get robbed by the judges again in this spot. So if he's got a chance to finish, I think for once he's finally going to take it. I know it's weird to say, the flower has changed its petals because Sean Strickland always goes to split decisions. But if there was ever a fight where he was going to try to put the hammer down to not get robbed and get his belt back, it seems like this is the one. So I like me some violence. All right, guys, that is it. That is the undefeated poke 312. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. I appreciate you all. I hope you make awesome bets. I hope you cash piles of money tomorrow at UFC 312. Guys, do me a favor. The best thing you can do to support me right now, aside from liking and subbing here, is please get signed up for Bet Openly. That'll go a long way to helping me out. And I'm literally giving away $100 on there. So get signed up, get in the free contest, come compete with me for that $100 prize. I hope you guys do so well tomorrow. It's going to be freaking awesome. This is going to be a fun card with a lot of violence. I'll get my final card posted up tonight for first thing tomorrow for you guys. And follow or fade. You guys do you. You know the drill. I'll be back here on Monday. Talk to you soon. Love you guys. Let's roll.